Hello. Hi friends and readers. I am doing another reading vlog this week. Basically, I do a reading vlog every week, but more in particular, I've been really excited and waiting to do this reading vlog. And that is because this week I will be reading Destiny Sidwell's 5-star reads. Now, I want to start off by saying I do not know Destiny Sidwell outside of her YouTube account. I have been subscribed to Destiny's booktube account on YouTube for quite some time now. There were a few YouTubers who got me introduced into reading again and the love of watching videos as well as now making videos, and I've already done a video or two about them. I read Sarah Caroli's 5-star reads. It was my first video on YouTube ever, and then a few months later I did Haley Pham's 5-star reads. Both were really successful in just finding books that I enjoyed reading and even gave a higher rating than most of my books that I read, or better than the average that I read right now. And in particular, Sarah Caroli and Destiny Sidwell were the two big creators who got me back into reading and kept me around in the conversation and discussions around books. So I really wanted to hop in and do Destiny's 5-star reads. Now, to do these 5-star reads, I basically go on creators' Goodreads account and you can see their public shelves and what they've rated 5 stars. I filtered it by her ratings and looked through all of the 5 stars, and there were a ton of honorable mentions. I really dug deep into Destiny's Goodreads account in her ratings. A lot of her more recent reads honestly have not been 5 stars, so I had to go back through some older of her reads. Some books that are honorable mentions but I won't be reading yet are the Beartown series. She had some 5 stars in there. I want to push off the Beartown series to closer to January, February in the winter time. And then Normal People by Sally Rooney was one that I thought I could read potentially, but I'm gonna hold off for now. A ton. Oh my god, the lighting. The lighting got crazy. There are a ton of Destiny's books that I had also already read, so it would be a lot of rereads if I picked those books. Some of those include Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, Happy Place by Emily Henry, 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, Book Lovers, Emily Henry, A Man Called Uva by Fredrik Backman, and Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So I decided not to go for a reread this go round and pick 2 books that I had never read but were on my TBR. I've been really thrown off by daylight savings happened yesterday, and so the lighting and the changes, I'm filming this in the morning before work. I have to get used to the new sunlight schedule. So this week I'll be reading 2 books off of her TBR that are 5 stars that I've never read before, and we're gonna hop into the first book a little bit later when I'm on my lunch break. It is Monday. Talk to you then. Hello, friend. He's trying to get comfy on my lap, I think. It is now a few hours later. I read a little bit before work today and a little bit on my lunch break of the first book, which was rated a 5-star by Destiny Sidwell. On Goodreads, it looks like Destiny read the book in October of 2024. Gave it a 5-star, of course, and honestly, this is one of the books that I have been most looking forward to reading, and that is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. I have now read 2 books by Fredrik Backman. The first book I read last year was A Man Called Uva, and the second book I read, honestly, within the last month was My Friends. My Friends was a 5-star for me. I knew within the first few chapters that it would be a 5-star. I don't remember the exact rating I gave for A Man Called Uva, but I knew it was a 4-star or above. And so I don't know, 2 books into reading by this author, if you would say that you could go ahead and tell yourself that he's a 5-star author for you, but I think depending on how this book goes, Fredrik Backman could probably be, and probably already is, one of my favorite authors, only 2 books in. Having just read My Friends and then having started Anxious People by him, I can just already tell. So when I saw this on Destiny's 5-star list, I just knew it had to be a book that I'd pick up. I had been putting it on hold on Libby, the e-library, but it's been on hold for a few weeks now, and it still won't deliver for another few months, which is a good sign. People are liking it and putting it in their cart. So this past last weekend when I went to a coffee store in the local library, I went ahead and picked up the paperback copy. I had a feeling that this is gonna be one of those ones that I wanted on my shelf, and I didn't have A Man Called Uva or My Friends. I had rented both those, and I decided this would be worthwhile to spend a little money on. Having just picked it up this morning, we are on page 64, which is just before chapter 22. I did in fact stop in the middle of the chapter so I could film this clip before my lunch break ended in 7 minutes. My cat's about to jump. So if you're wondering what what Anxious People is about, it is about an attempted bank robbery, except for the bank robber does not end up robbing the bank and instead flees out of the bank into a nearby apartment. This is an open house apartment because it is open to the public for a viewing, for sale at least, I think. And so there are 8 prospective buyers, no, I think 7 prospective buyers in there, and 1 real estate agent runs into this apartment and holds them hostage. So it's bank robbery turned apartment hostage situation. And reading straight from the back of the book, each of them carries a lifetime of grievances, hurts, secrets, and passions that are ready to boil over. As the minutes tick by, they begin to suspect that the criminal mastermind holding them hostage might be in more need of rescuing than they are. So towards the beginning of the book, we are getting the point of view of police officers who are interviewing the hostages. So we know that the hostage situation is over. We don't necessarily know how it has finished and what happened. Only 60 pages in, I'm guessing the rest of the story is going to be actually taking place during the hostage situation, learning more about the bank robber and how he interacted with the people in the room that he's holding hostage. I am really excited to keep reading. I'm already getting a 5-star feeling this little bit of the way into it, and so I'm excited to see where this goes and wondering if I also will rate it a 5-star like Destiny Sidwell did. I think that she is just hilarious. I love her content, and it was one of the booktube channels that I started watching very early on, and even listened to the podcast with Sarah Curley called Bookmarked. I have some Bookmarked merch, and especially now I'm so glad she's still putting out content, and just love watching her videos. And so I wanted to try and see if we had similar book taste, and so far so good. Talk to you later. Good morning or good afternoon. It's morning for me. It's like 7:46 a.m. I am going to be logging in for work in the next 14 minutes, and I've been reading for the last 45 minutes or so and wanted to get an update because I am approaching halfway through Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. It is Tuesday morning, so I read about 100 something pages yesterday and then a little bit more this morning. Was looking into the genre of this book, and I think it's literary fiction with a little bit of humor, and I am feeling incredibly good about this book so far. This book is very touching in that we have this bank robber who did not rob a bank and instead held hostage a group of people that were viewing an apartment for sale, and we are just getting to learn all about the lives of the people that were in this apartment. We have a gay couple in there who's pregnant. We have an older couple in there who basically hate each other. We have a woman in there who hates herself and is not the nicest of people. We have an older elderly woman in there who was waiting on her husband to come to the apartment, and the real estate agent. There's just so many characters and lives that are in the apartment, and then the bank robber themselves, and it's just taking us through the emotions of life. And Fredrik Backman is so good at describing life, and the connection to all of these characters is just sucking you into the story. You talk about families, you talk about addiction, you talk about divorce. There's a quote in there, and I should have highlighted it, but it wasn't my first instant, where he basically said that even a bank robber can have a bad day at work, meaning didn't even end up robbing a bank, having a bad day. And that is just like a little bit of the comedic relief to telling this life so well. It's so hard to explain. You just read some of his sentences and you're like, wow. And it just flies by. It's a great book to read in that it has very short chapters, and then with the interviews, the police officers are interviewing all the people who were in the apartment, and they include these interview transcriptions, so it's easy to read as well. I'm just really enjoying it so far. And right now we have finally entered into the apartment and what happens during the hostage situation with the bank robber and all of the people in the apartment. So we're getting to learn a lot more about them and maybe how we'll find ourselves on the backside of this hostage situation. I'm gonna keep reading probably on my lunch break and after work today before Dancing with the Stars. And I think I'm gonna update you next when I'm finished with the book. Talk to you then. Hello. I got up this morning to finish My Friends, not My Friends, why do I keep saying that? I literally just read My Friends a few weeks ago. To finish Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, and I have finished it this morning. It's literally 7:52 a.m. I need to clock in for work in 8 minutes, but I wanted to give this review while it was fresh on the brain because I know that this book is going to sit with me for days and days and days, and so I know that I don't need it to sit with me to say that it's a 5-star. It is clearly a 5-star book for me, and this makes 2 back-to-back 5 stars from Fredrik Backman, My Friends, and Anxious People, and I really did also like A Man Called Uwe. And so only 3 books into Fredrik Backman's writing, I'm just going to say he's a 5-star author for me. If you've read other books by Fredrik Backman, please let me know what I should pick up next. I really want to pick up the Beartown series in the new year, probably in January, but other than the Beartown series, what's another book or what's another author where you get the same feeling of Fredrik Backman? This type of book, the literary fiction with a little bit of comedy, I don't know exactly what you would classify his entire work, if it can even fall under one umbrella, but I'm starting to think that it's really what I like in a book that I didn't know I liked before. Now I'm gonna set this down because I'm just gonna keep banging it around because I enjoyed it so much. I did take some notes. I read a lot last night, cried last night. There's just one particular part it just got me. I also cried a little bit this morning. Just the book wraps up so beautifully. You spend all this time getting to know about the hostages that are in that apartment. There was a little bit of a plot twist and I actually guessed it. I've been guessing some things more recently. I think I'm starting to understand how authors are writing, but even having guessed it, it was still so heartwarming, and learning all of these characters and seeing them evolve through conversations with one another. This book was just written so beautifully. There were some quotes that I wanted to read. One of the quotes was towards the middle of the book, and I thought it's a good summary of the book without being much of a spoiler because you know nothing. Fredrik Backman writes, "This is a story about a bridge and idiot and a hostage drama and an apartment viewing, but it's also a love story, several in fact." And I think that just hit the nail on the head. Is that how the saying goes? And then it wraps up at the very end and it says, "A message of the story that I think everyone could take from this. We're trying to be grown up and love each other, and perhaps we hurried past each other in a crowd today and neither of us noticed. And the fibers of your coat brushed against mine for a single moment and then we're gone. I don't know who you are." And I think that it brings me to a thought, like every day we're in a car and we're driving past so many people and we never realize that those are people who are also having thought and have families and are experiencing a day in their own way. But we are so focused on ourselves and what's going on in our lives, and there's so many people's lives passing by us, and you don't know how impactful you've been in that person's life or how unimpactful you've been in that person's life. And this book just is the kind of book that I think I needed to read right now. So if you have a chance, pick up Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. And we will start our second book of the week, which was a 5-star by Destiny Sidwell. So far we are 1 for 1 on her 5-star reads, matching with what I would want in a 5-star book. And I have 4 minutes to clock into work, so I'll talk to you later. It's me again. It's Wednesday after work. I'm in my office, but finished up work for the day and wanted to introduce the second book we're reading this week. And you've seen the clip of it. It's Wild Love by Elsie Silver. It's probably echoey in here, so I apologize for that. There's not much furniture in here. But Destiny Sidwell read Wild Love in April of 2024, so April of last year. And Destiny's review said, Ford, ... The Man That You Are, my favorite Elsie Silver book ever. More review to come soon. And I had seen Elsie Silver's Rose Hill series, which this is book number 1 in the Rose Hill series, all over the place, all over TikTok, all over YouTube. And I had just been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And I finally felt ready to commit to another interconnected romance world. And so I did. Destiny gave me a great opportunity to do it here. And a lot of times I hear people talking about book boyfriends and Ford is brought up. And so here we are. The whole Rose Hill series is on Kindle Unlimited, so even bigger bonus that I don't have to pay. I don't have to buy them outside of my Kindle Unlimited subscription, and there are 4 books total in the series. This will be my first ever Elsie Silver book as well. I haven't really heard much talk around the other series of Elsie Silver. I don't really know what they are. So is there any other out there that I'm really missing? Do people prefer the Rose Hill series? Is that why I see mostly of it? Why I see mostly it instead of others? Let me know. Even going into book 1 and an interconnected series where you could technically pick up any of the books on their own, I think it's fun to pick up the first book and you build the idea of the world in your head, the scenery and the characters you're first introduced to, and then you get to kind of play a fun little game where you see, hey, maybe this will be character in book 2, or maybe this will be characters in book 3, and try to guess which one they are if you don't know, or if you picked up little clues over booktube and book talk. For instance, I know book 4 is like a age gap, ex-boyfriend, father of the ex-boyfriend romance, and so in my head I kind of remember that as I'm meeting all these new characters in the first book. This is a big romance book. I think it's gonna be a small town romance. It's 457 pages, which is a little bit heftier for me. The update is that I just stopped on chapter 10. It is dual point of view. Chapter 10 is 20% of the way into the book, so I've already made a big dent today. I just kind of rolled straight through a 5-star and just kind of, I knew I felt so strongly about Anxious People being a 5-star. I didn't need it to sit with me. It sat with me perfectly every step of the way. So I just went straight into the next book. We're 92 pages into it already. I wanted to get a head start because tonight's Survivor night, so I'm not gonna read a lot tonight, but I will probably get a good bit of reading done tomorrow morning before work. And I've blabbed and I've blabbed. I want to give you a bit of a summary of what this book's even about. We've got a dual point of view. Our main character is Ford. Ford is sort of a nepo baby turned billionaire, but did it all on his own and doesn't really like rich people, even though he is rich people. So he moves back to this small town that he grew up visiting over the summer. His parents are like famous musicians maybe, or in a band, something like that. And they would come to this small town in Canada over the summers. And now that he has his own money and he's kickstarted something really big, he's going to try to make it on his own even more in this small town. And then randomly, this young 12-year-old girl shows up at his doorstep and is like, "You're my father." And he said, "Huh? How am I your father?" And turns out really he just donated his sperm when he was younger. How do I explain this? She had parents. Her dad passed away and her mom got sick, and so she finally figured out who her biological sperm donor was, reached out to him to see if he could help her out. So now he's trying to kickstart this business, this studio in the small town, and then in comes his kid that he had no clue about, and in walks our female main character, Rosalie. She is Ford's best friend's little sister. So they've got years of joking and history, but it's been a long time and he hasn't seen her in like 10 years. But they pick up right where they left off. Rosalie's very well educated. She had a big city, big girl job, but something bad happened and she left that job, moved back to this small town indefinitely to stay with her brother and just figure out life. And guess where I'll leave it? Right now, they just picked up right where they left off. They are joking. And it's been 10 years since they last saw each other, but it doesn't feel like that at all. So I love that they have history, and I can't wait to uncover what kind of history, but there's a lot of tension. And that's all. I'll probably update you when I get closer to 50 to 60% of the way through the book to see how we're liking it and to see if I go 2 for 2 on 5-star reads from Destiny Sidwell's finished books. Talk to you then. Hello, it is now days later since I last talked to you. I think the last time I picked up the camera was Thursday, and I really didn't read all that much. And then yesterday I worked in person, and it is now Saturday morning. I wanted to come with an update about Wild Love by Elsie Silver. We are on page 257, which is 55% of the way through the book. And my goal for today, Saturday, is to finish this book. And that is a hefty goal, but I have nothing planned for the rest of the day, and it's the morning time, so I'm just going to sit down and just grind it out and try to finish this book, because I am going to a football game tomorrow on Sunday, and then I'll need to edit and all that, so we're gonna just sit down and crank it out. So we have gotten a lot of mention, not a lot, but here and there some mentions of Chestnut Springs and people from Chestnut Springs, and that like keyed me in. I remembered that I've heard a lot about Chestnut Springs, and I believe that's her other series, Elsie Silver's other series, and I don't know if it came before this Rose Hill series, but I do think that it did. Wondered if I should have started with the Chestnut Spring series before the Rose Hill, but whatever, no going back now. I do really like so far getting to see Ford, getting to know his younger daughter Cora and the relationship they're building, and there is still great tension between Ford and our female main character Rosie. However, something just happened that feels a little gross to me, and so I'm not sure how I'm feeling about their budding working relationship and other things going on. TBD on that one. And that's just a quick update for you. I want to come back to you once I finish this book to give you my final thoughts, because I was feeling really good about it in the beginning, like the first 25%, and then the next 25% I'm feeling a little less better about it. So we'll see how things turn around in the last half of the book. It is hours and hours later. I just finished up Wild Love by Elsie Silver on my Kindle, and this book was a pretty chunk of pages, 447 pages, and I ended up rating it a 4-star. I read, when I filmed earlier, I read a good bit. I think I went from 55% to 80% all in one sit, and then I got busy doing some things around the house all day, and then just picked up and finished the last 20% of the book in the last hour and a half. And for me, a 4-star, I would say that's a really good rating, especially for an interconnected romance book in a series, the first one in the series to be exact. And I would say we're 2 for 2 on Destiny Sidwell's 5-star reads this week. These are, well, first of all, I got a 5-star and then a 4-star, so really good. And I do want to continue to up the Rose Hill series. I am starting to read some ratings now that I've gone in and rated the book that people do enjoy the Chestnut Spring series better. Let me know if that's how you also feel. But I think I'm gonna go through and finish the Rose Hill series and maybe pick up Chestnut Springs at a later time. At the end of this book, you do also get a sneak peek into book number 2 in this series, which I believe is gonna be about West. In this book, our main character is Rosie and West is her brother. And we do get to see a glimpse of West, but I wonder who the female main character will be in book number 2. I don't even have a guess. I think the title is really a good descriptor of this type of romance story. Rosalie or Rosie is very wild love. And then our main character Ford, he likes to be in control and know what's going to happen. And the two of them always butting heads. At some points they describe it as like they have to hate on each other. That's just all they've known their whole lives. But there are some really sweet moments. I really like getting to know Cora, the younger daughter, and how those relationships developed around Cora. When she got her period, I thought that was really sweet and funny. And then the necklace, I thought that was really sweet. A good book. I did not appreciate one kind of trope that was thrown into it around the 50% mark, which is what I was talking about earlier, but I was able to move past it. Wouldn't be me in real life, but in a book, I kept reading. And that's all. I think that I have exhausted the 3 big YouTubers who've inspired me in my reading journey. Let me know if there's another book YouTuber out there that I should do this for as well. Bye for now.